Tonight, you'll go to sleep alone, in your own room, behind a closed door, and it will feel completely normal. But the truth is, you're living inside an experiment less than 100 years old. For 99% of human history, being alone wasn't even a concept. There was no room of your own, no bed of your own, no door to close. Before the industrial age, people almost never spent time alone, not during the day, not at night. Families, servants, neighbors all slept in the same room, often the same bed. In medieval Europe, both poor and wealthy households shared sleeping space with children, relatives, and sometimes travelers given shelter for the night. A private bedroom for a child wouldn't exist for centuries, and even then, only for the wealthiest. In villages, people worked, ate, slept, and gave birth in the very same shared room. Privacy wasn't a right. It was an almost impossible luxury, available only to monks, hermits, and aristocrats with enormous houses. For an ordinary person, life was entirely public. Everyone saw you. Always. The turning point didn't happen overnight. In 1890, a landmark article titled "The Right to Privacy" appeared in the Harvard Law Review. Lawyers Warren and Brandeis were among the first to articulate the idea that a person could have a right to solitude. Before that, the concept barely existed in law. Architecture changed in parallel. As cities and the middle class grew, homes were divided into separate rooms. The nursery appeared. The master bedroom appeared. The hallway appeared, a space that exists purely so you don't have to walk through someone else's room. Industrialization completed the break. People moved from tight-knit village communities into cities, where instead of neighbors who'd known you your whole life, there were now strangers behind a wall. We gained doors with locks. We gained the right to shut ourselves in, and we called it progress. It would seem that privacy is a good thing. Personal space, quiet, the ability to be with yourself. But here, science takes an unexpected turn. Psychologist John Cacioppo, one of the leading researchers on loneliness, spent decades studying what happens when social isolation becomes chronic. His findings were alarming. The human brain evolved inside a constant group. It is simply not built for prolonged solitude. When social connection disappears for too long, the body switches into a state resembling stress from hunger or cold. Cortisol levels rise. Sleep quality drops. The immune system weakens. Cacioppo compared the health damage of chronic loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The human body still thinks it's living in a village by a fire. It doesn't understand what a room of one's own even means. But it wasn't just family closeness that disappeared. Something less obvious vanished too. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined the term third place, a space that is neither home nor work. The neighborhood pub, the corner shop, the churchyard, the square by the fountain. A place you go not out of necessity, but simply because people you loosely know will be there. For centuries, these places were the glue holding casual, neighborly connections together. But over the last half-century, third places have been disappearing one by one. They were replaced by shopping malls, where you buy things but don't linger. They were replaced by cars, which stopped us from walking past our neighbors. They were replaced by residential design that leaves physically nowhere to simply stand and talk. We didn't just shut ourselves inside our apartments. We destroyed the spaces between apartments, where casual human closeness used to be born. This isn't just theoretical, it's measured in real numbers. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an official advisory on the loneliness epidemic, naming the lack of social connection a public health risk comparable to smoking and obesity. And the paradox is, we're surrounded by more people than ever, cities packed, remote connection instant. But it's precisely the physical isolation within separate apartments, separate rooms, separate screens that has stripped away the accidental, purposeless presence of other people that was, for thousands of years, the basic fabric of human life. Solitude used to be nearly impossible. Today, it's become nearly unavoidable. We built a society perfectly designed to separate people, while leaving them technically free and physically close, but truly alone. And when you look at the numbers, the picture becomes even clearer. In the mid-20th century, living alone was rare. Most people spent their entire lives with family, roommates, or a spouse. Today, in major cities across developed countries, the share of single-person households has grown dramatically, in many metropolises approaching a third of all households. and in some cases surpassing it. This doesn't mean all these people are unhappy, but it does mean that the physical infrastructure of everyday closeness, the one that took shape over thousands of years around a shared fire, a shared room, a shared yard, has simply stopped existing for millions of people. We've become technically brilliant at living alone. Electricity, food delivery, streaming, the internet. All of it lets us go weeks without seeing a single person while still functioning perfectly. The only question is what price our bodies and minds pay for that efficiency. The good news is, this isn't a life sentence. All over the world, people are already trying to bring back what was lost. Architects, urban planners, even just neighbors. Co-housing, where everyone has their own apartment, but also a shared kitchen, a shared living room, where chance encounters become possible again. Pedestrian streets, cleared of cars, giving people somewhere to simply stand and talk. Community gardens, where neighbors grow vegetables side by side and quietly become familiar to one another. Libraries that are no longer just about silence, but about gathering again. Even offices are slowly bringing back the shared table instead of isolated cubicles. This doesn't mean we're going back to a village by the fire, but it means we can relearn how to build spaces where solitude is a choice, not the only option available. So it turns out, it's not just about the closed door of your bedroom. It's about the vanished pubs, courtyards, and squares. About houses built so that people never cross paths. About numbers that quietly turned loneliness from the exception into the norm. So maybe it's not you, when you feel lonely in your beautifully furnished apartment. Maybe it's that your body is still waiting for a fire that no longer exists. Waiting for the group that, for thousands of years, slept beside you, ate beside you, talked beside you, simply because that's how survival worked. And maybe the strangest part of this whole story isn't that we lost the fire. It's that we never even noticed the moment it happened. No one decided, on any single day, starting today, we live alone. It happened step by step, room by room, lock by lock, generation by generation, until one morning we woke up in a world where the nearest living soul might be behind a concrete wall 3 meters away, and you could live next to them for years without ever learning their name. Maybe bringing the fire back completely isn't possible anymore, but bringing back the habit of sometimes leaving the door slightly open, that is, talking to a neighbor, showing up in a shared space without a reason, interrupting, for 5 minutes, the evening you usually spend alone in front of a screen. Tonight, when you find yourself alone in your room again, remember, it wasn't always this way, and maybe it doesn't have to stay this way.